The inferno that engulfed Hope's gleaming new home began in an instant of careless negligence, a stray ember from the fireplace tumbling onto a velvet rug, igniting a crackling inferno that rippled through the open-plan living area faster than even the most vigilant firefighter could contain. Smoke curled through the vaulted ceilings in sinister gray tendrils, snaking along crown moldings and bursting through the chandelier's crystals like so many ashen tears. Hope Logan, frantic at the first scent of burning wood, had only seconds to register the flame's sudden fury, the walls aflame, the windows molten, the very air thick with the acrid sting of her dreams going up in smoke. As the morning sunlight fractured on the breaking glass, she realized with a heart-stopping jolt that her two daughters, Kelly, fragile at 2 years old, and Beth, barely 4, were still inside, nowhere in sight beyond the curtain of choking blackness. Liam Spencer, summoned by a panicked call from Steffi and alerted by Wyatt's harrowing screams, arrived on the scene to find Hope stumbling on the porch, hair singed and eyes wide with terror. Without hesitation, he hurled himself through the front door as it buckled under the heat, flames licking his back like vengeful serpents. He dropped to a knee beside the wrought iron staircase, the wood beneath him groaning and splintering, and sensed rather than saw the ebb and flow of heat that marked the children's hiding place, beneath the fallen staircase, where debris and smoke formed a deadly cocoon. Gritting his teeth against the searing pain as embers rained down, Liam reached the narrow crevice where Kelly clung to Beth's tiny hand, tears streaking soot across their cheeks. In a voice that trembled with both determination and fear, he whispered, "I've got you. Hang on, sweethearts," folding Kelly into one arm, Beth into the other, and pressing them against the cool curve of his chest as he retraced his steps through the inferno's heart. Behind him, the house convulsed. The ceiling, nothing more than a plaster tomb, surrendered to the relentless heat. In a single, cataclysmic roar that split the world like thunder, it collapsed. Liam felt the momentum first in the crunch of timbers, then in the bone-jarring impact that crumpled him like paper. His arms pinwheeled, seeking the soft weight of his children before pain seared through his back, and an excruciating crack told him that the roof had become a coffin. Trapped beneath the smoldering wreckage, with Kelly and Beth safe but pinned against his chest, Liam's vision shimmered with flickers of white-hot light. He tasted blood and ash, his lungs filling with smoke that clawed at his throat, but the relentless beat of his heart whispered that he was alive, still breathing, still protecting. Outside, Hope's screams shattered the haze of heat and chaos, a raw, shuddering wail that summoned every ounce of fire department muscle to the scene. Fire trucks thundered down the cul-de-sac, hoses unfurling like the tails of frightened dragons. Paramedics wailed as they slapped oxygen masks on the crying children, their tiny bodies rattling with sobs, but found no sign of Liam beneath the rubble heaped in the parlor. Hope fought her way through the ranks of rescuers, her gown torn, her cheeks streaked with ash, until she knelt before the blackened pit where her husband had vanished. "Liam!" She shrieked, voice raw and ragged, and pounded her fists on the charred floorboards as though she could shatter the very earth and force him back into the light. When the rescue teams finally tunneled down, they found him alive but unresponsive, wet from water sprays but pinned under a collapsed beam that had snapped like a giant's tooth. His face was pale, lips cracked, chest rising and falling in shallow, labored bursts. Paramedics worked frantically, stabilizing him on a stretcher, administering epinephrine, and racing him past a phalanx of horrified onlookers to the nearest trauma center. Hope clung to the gurney, her fingers weaving through the straps that held him, willing him to stay with her, whispering prayers as Beth and Kelly, swaddled in blankets, peered through the ambulance's sliding windows, their wide eyes mirrors of innocence and fear. but the damage was too great. Burn unit doctors and surgeons identified severe spinal injuries, second-degree burns across 80% of his body, and massive internal trauma from the roof's collapse. By midnight, with machines humming like devils in the sterile hush, Hope stood vigil beside his bed, eyes swollen and bloodshot, clutching a crumpled baseball cap, his favorite, that looked impossibly small in her trembling hands. Electra and Wyatt arrived, faces etched with disbelief, joining Hope in silent prayer as monitors charted each faltering heartbeat. In the early hours of dawn, when the digital clock glowed 3:13 a.m., the rhythm paused. Medical staff swarmed in, their faces grim. They performed an emergency decompression to relieve pressure on his spine, but it was too late. Liam's body, heroic to the last, surrendered to its wounds. Hope, in the outer room, felt her world fracture. The news was delivered in a whisper so soft she barely heard her name. Time stopped. She collapsed into Electra's arms, her sobs ripping through the corridor, a sound that seemed to fracture every heartbeat of every soul in the hospital. Word of Liam's tragic death spread like wildfire through Los Angeles's tight-knit fashion and social scenes. At Forrester Creations, the normally vibrant halls hummed with disbelief. Ridge Forrester, face ashen, sat slumped against the mahogany desk, eyes hollow, while Steffi, trembling, covered her mouth to stifle a scream. Brooke Forrester paced by the windows, gaze vacant, hands pressed to her temples as though trying to keep her own mind from splintering. In the Spencer household, Reese and Bridget Spencer wept uncontrollably, mournful wails that echoed down the manicured staircase as Electra, devastated, clung to Beth and Kelly, trying to be strong for them even as her own heart lay in pieces. The funeral, held under a slate-gray sky, became a somber gathering of two families united in grief. White roses lay scattered on the polished oak casket, atop a cascade of candles flickering in the hush of the chapel. Hope, cloaked in black satin, placed a single lily on Liam's folded hands, then leaned forward to whisper goodbye, a final, heartrending confession of love that hung in the thick air like a vow. Beth and Kelly, dressed in matching ivory dresses, clutched Hope's gown, their innocent expressions a painful testament to the price of heroism. Ridge spoke with quavering strength of a man who had given everything in the name of love and family. Wyatt delivered a eulogy that fractured hearts, calling his brother both protector and brightest light in their lives. Even Steffi, tears glistening, spoke of Liam's generosity of spirit and unwavering devotion. When the service ended, mourners spilled into the courtyard beneath a sky heavy with rain. As the first drops fell, Hope stood alone by the graveside, fingers tracing the letters of Liam's name etched in stone. She whispered promises that trembled on the wind, promises to raise their daughters, to honor his memory, to find a way to live in a world he heroically saved them into. But in that moment, her knees buckled beneath the weight of unbearable loss. She fell to her knees, face buried in the wet grass, and released a single, shuddering cry that seemed to shake the heavens themselves. In the days and weeks that followed, the Spencer and Forrester families clung to one another, forging new bonds in the crucible of tragedy. Electra became a rock for her nieces, drawing on reserves of strength she never knew she had. Steffi poured herself into designing a memorial collection for Forrester Creations. Garments in ivory and ash, ribbons that fluttered like ghosts across the runway, dedicating each stitch to Liam's courage. Wyatt vowed to be there for Hope in every capacity, stepping forward as guardian to their children and forging a partnership of shared grief and mutual healing. And Hope, though broken beyond measure, began to find a fragile path through the darkness. Early mornings watching the sunrise through Liam's window, teaching Kelly and Beth to plant lilies in the garden he had envisioned building, and whispering stories of their father's bravery as they drifted to sleep. The new house remained charred and uninhabitable, a monument to both ambition and tragedy. Neighbors and friends donated time and resources, rallying around hope to rebuild not just walls, but a home founded on resilience and remembrance. Every beam replaced, every nail hammered, carried the echo of Liam's final act, the rescue that cemented his place forever as hero and martyr. And though Hope's tears would flow anew with each memory, she vowed to steer her daughters forward, bearing the legacy of a father who risked and gave everything for love. From the ash and ruin rose a community transformed, a testament to the indomitable power of family, love, and sacrifice. Though the sorrow would never fully recede, the bonds forged in the crucible of loss would endure. In this new chapter, Hope learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the will to love again, and that Liam's spirit would forever guard their home, whispering through the lilies and the laughter of two little girls raised in the light of his sacrifice. The storm of deception gathering around while Spencer's audacious scheme is about to break, and when it does, the fallout promises to shake the walls of Los Angeles and perhaps even the very foundation of Forrester Creations. With the meticulous connivance of Sheriff's Deputy Bradley Baker, Will has orchestrated a trap so daring that its ultimate cost remains unknown and likely catastrophic. Under the guise of a passionate reunion and intrigued flirtation, will don a hidden wire, slip unnoticed into Luna Nozawa's upscale apartment, and attempt to draw from her mouth the confession of a dark plot conceived against Steffy Forrester. His motives swirl with both professional obligation, gathering evidence that Luna intended to harm Steffy, and personal desperation as he abandons Electra Forrester, the devoted paramour from whom he's been growing distant, in pursuit of this dangerous liaison. Yet the boldest of plans are prey to cruel twists, and every shadow hides the potential for disaster. On the appointed evening, Luna will welcome Will with a flutter of excitement, believing his attentions genuine and his concern real. She'll flirt back, her heart pounding, her defenses down, unaware that every word and every intimate gesture is being recorded. She'll speak freely, divulging her fear, her guilt, her motives, her meticulous preparations, including the acquisition of a pistol meant for Steffy's demise. The plan, Will hopes, is foolproof. Catch Luna in her own words, prove her intent, and finally remove the threat she poses. But as soon as the cameras roll and the trap snaps shut, reality will slide jaggedly off its rails. Luna's eyes will flash with the realization that she's been duped. The revelation will ignite a violent fury, born of betrayal and panic. With blood pounding in her ears, she will seize the very weapon she once saved for Steffy. Will's heart will falter as he hears the click of a gun cocking behind him, a sound that heralds irreversible change. In that instant, time will stretch. Luna may lash out with the pistol, firing either at Will or into the air as a warning. A reckless gamble that could end him. Alternatively, her rage could take a more improvisational turn. A heavy table lamp slammed across Will's skull, a brutal blow that sends him crashing to the floor in a crimson-streaked haze. Either way, the result is certain. Will be gravely injured, his life teetering on the brink. Panic will surge through Luna's veins as adrenaline and regret war within her. She might flee into the night, pistol in hand, desperate to escape the chaos she unleashed. Her flight would invite a citywide manhunt, turning sidewalks into hunting grounds and every glance from a stranger into a potential threat. As Luna runs, pursued by both guilt and law enforcement, Will lies wounded, conscious or unconscious, each second stretching into an eternity of agony and uncertainty. Inside the Spencer family home, Elektra will shatter into pieces when she learns of Will's condition. Her dreams of a future with him will dissolve into tears of frustration and fear. She'll race to the hospital where doctors fight to save Will's life, treating gunshot and blunt force trauma. The waiting room will become a crucible of anguish. Reese and Bridget Spencer pacing the floor, their expressions etched with terror, each moment punctuated by the distant beep of life support machines. The Forrester clan, too, will converge. Steffi, shaken but unharmed, will arrive with horror painted across her features, guilt warring with relief that Luna's bullet was not intended for her. Ridge and Brooke Forrester will stand by Steffi's side, grappling with the revelation that the woman they once welcomed into their family has earned herself a dire place behind bars once again. As news of the hospital crisis spills into the media, front pages will splatter headlines of betrayal, bullets, and broken hearts. Analysts will dissect every motive, every misstep. Rumors will swirl, questions about Luna's fate. Will she surrender or remain on the run? Will her confession, obtained illegally, hold up in court? And above all, will Will survive? His recovery could mean vindication for Bradley Baker's operation, but a fatal outcome would cast a shadow of regret and scandal over the entire department. In the weeks to come, every hospital update, every legal filing, every whispered negotiation between lawyers will be a lifeline for those clinging to hope. Even if Will clings to life, he will emerge transformed. The man who once sought evidence with clinical detachment will now bear the scars, both physical and psychological, of a night gone horribly awry. Elektra will stand by him, her love tested in the crucible of violence. Luna's fate will hang in the balance. Hostage to the evidence she herself revealed, guilty of conspiracy to commit murder, yet sympathetic in her impulsive act of desperation. Steffi, spared a direct bullet but wounded nonetheless, must reconcile her own feelings of remorse and relief. Meanwhile, the corridors of Forrester Creations will buzz with speculation. Will Luna's scheme overshadow the Couture houses? Will Will's ordeal strengthen or fracture his relationships within the Spencer legacy? And most importantly, when the dust finally settles, who will emerge unbroken, and who will be lost forever to the madness that one night of deceit unleashed? Keep your eyes fixed on Los Angeles, for the chaos set in motion by Will Spencer's trap will not fade quietly, and the reverberations will be felt in every heart that dared to love, to lie, or to live on the razor's edge of betrayal.